Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. We're continuing on our pandemic projects. This one was previewed earlier. This one belongs in the Hall of Fame for reels. It's a Newell. This is the Newell 229-5. Very sought after by collectors as well as angling enthusiasts. It's a beautiful reel. It was designed and manufactured by Carl Newell. The product took on his last name. This is Newell was a plastics engineer and composite engineer, and he designed a lighter weight reel for saltwater fishing. And it's known for its graphite, it's known for its ball bearings, and its stainless steel interior. And we're going to take this apart. We're going to service this one. This one belongs to Greg, and we'll make sure that it gets the appropriate TLC to keep it fishing for a long time to come. As you know, I generally start by removing the exterior pieces. In this case, I'm going to start by the handle, because there's screws underneath, and you want to make sure that you have access to those screws. It's also a good time to start by thanking the first line responders and the essential personnel for everything you do during this pandemic. I'm calling these pandemic projects because it's something that I've been trying to do on a regular basis, and just finding out how difficult it is to keep going on this. So I can imagine what it's like if you're waking up every day trying to go to a COVID ward or dealing with that type of service. So thank you to the healthcare workers, to the law enforcement, to the first responders, to essential personnel, making sure that we have all the pieces we need, and to anyone else I missed along the way, nursing care and doctors and everybody else in the chain of command there. All right, we took the cap nut off, and then there's an E-clip, much like what you would find on an Abu reel that's going to hold the gear shaft. There's a little protective washer, and then oops, doesn't want to go in my parts tray. I do use a parts tray. It's the bottom of a milk jug. I also use a protective glove to ensure that I keep most of that stuff off of my hands. We're going to be looking for a screw. I have very limited Newell parts, but I may have a screw to help along the way. And we have a graphite star adjuster. And I would recommend that if you don't know the reel at all, make sure that you go and take pictures along the way so that you can find the methods that you use to take it apart, the sequence and orders of the pieces and parts, and how they go back together again. This one confuses me a little. I believe that belongs inside as the cap washer. I don't know why that was on the outside, but I'm going to go have to check on that one. We are missing one screw, so there's only two screws that are holding the side plate in at this point. And we're going to go ahead and take those off. So a lot of people I've heard from suggest that Newell was the father of the jig master and left Penn. To my knowledge, Carl Newell never worked for Penn. And I can understand the link to the jig master because I believe some of these internal parts, like the drag washers, are actually jig master drag washers. But other than that, I don't know if there's really an association there. All right, simple on the back end. We have a plastic clicker, which never seems to go away. We have a plastic click tongue. This one's a little bit worn. And we have a bearing back there. So spin the bearing, make sure it's working. And this one is. And then just use some oil. I use Real X to oil that. The spool is a composite spool, and there's no indication of any kind of rust or any issues with that. I'm just going to put a little bit of fishing reel grease for the part that goes inside that bearing. And I'm going to reinstall that right back into the bearing so that I don't lose this. Of course, as soon as you put a line on there, the line gets trapped in the side plate. Okay, that's the back end of the reel. Let's show you the business end of this. There's 4 bridge screws. This is the top end sleeve. And I wanted to show you, this is stainless steel. It is top quality pieces and parts in the engineering of this reel. I'm going to go ahead and just pull these off right now. And what's nice about this whole assembly comes off. This, if you were working on a pen reel, you would worry a little bit about driving or dropping the yoke or the spring or the anti-reverse dog. This is all built on one bridge so that you don't have that issue. We're just going to go ahead and push that all the way through, and you can see, well, that's the bell washer that I was talking about, thinking that maybe it was missing. So as far as I can tell, that's not the case here. And we're going to do the same thing here. You can test that bearing just to make sure it's working, which it is. And I'm going to use some Real X just to flood the bearing there. And then we'll put the bridge screws into those that fell out. We might as well knock them all out. I'll leave them in the case. All right. And let's drag the whole gear shaft here. You can see underneath here we have the main gear, we have the spool gear, pinion gear, stainless, and we have the anti-reverse mechanism that works off of a spring that gets reloaded when we go to do this. You can push the shaft through. There's a little bit of accumulated stuff on that shaft, so I'm just going to go ahead and get some steel wool here and see if we can't get that off. That'll make this thing slide a little bit easier when you're in drag mode. And the steel wool is 4-0 steel wool. It's the fine or ultra fine or extra fine or whatever it is. It's the least coarse of all of that. And this is fine. I wanted to take that shaft off because when you're servicing the reel, you do want to make sure that the post that the gear shaft rides on is nice and clean. And again, that's the beauty of the stainless, is that it does well. And here's a good example of why you might want to take pictures. Now, of course, I'm taking pictures along the way. I'm doing it in a video. But that dog just fell out. And if you didn't know how that dog went, you'd be in trouble at this point. So you want to make sure that you take the picture. It goes like that. And that when you go to reinstall, if you had that question, that you could go solve for that. I'm going to take the bridge sleeve. We've just greased that. And then we're going to go install the bridge sleeve. And of course, that dog has to be reset now. So I'm going to just take a little pick that I use. And that's how your dog spring gets set, in case you had a question with that. All right. You don't need to do anything, but if you had a bridge that was in any trouble here, you would pull these two E-clips. Those hold springs that holds the yoke. In this case, everything is clean. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure that our nice stainless pinion gear there gets some grease. And I use a little artist's brush to do that. And then we can put a drop of oil or two onto the jack, which will release. You can give it a little up and down just to make sure everything's working fine. Again, this is relatively clean. I just see a little bit of dirt there on the one side, so I might as well take care of that. But a beautiful reel. I think those of you that are familiar with the reel know its reputation and how nice it is. And those of you that are wondering about it, you can see the quality of this reel and what we're working on here. All right, there is a little bit of residual drag kind of hanging out in there, so I'm going to do the same thing with that steel wool. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that I clean that off. Again, this is a stainless gear, So you're not going to find much issue with this. You won't find rust, but as those washers tend to dry out, they do a couple of things. They tend to shed some of their stuff on the main washers, and they tend to stick if you don't service them over time, which of course compromises the efficiency of the drag. So what I'll do is I'm going to make sure that we grease these before we go reinstall, and we'll do that right now. I'm going to use Cal's Universal Drag Grease. I get questions from time to time about what it is. The labels are worn off, but this is Cal's Universal Drag Grease. I believe it is now a product of Okuma Corporation, but if you search your online supply sources for Cal's, you'll find it. I'm going to put that first one in there, and I notice we have the one on the back here, and again, that's my guess is that's just a lot of old grease and stuff that should clean off, and just using the steel wool to do that. And this is an example of why reels should be taken care of on a regular basis. You don't want to get that stuff accumulated and have it compromise the performance of the reel. And a lot of times it's like me and my golf clubs. They get out about twice a year, and it's purely social at that point. I'm not a good golfer, but I don't tend to clean them up after I play, and I get out there and I got dried grass and the like from the last time I played. Well, of course, anybody who takes golf seriously knows that that's not going to work very well. All right, that's nice and clean. We're going to go ahead and reinstall this. This is just a buffer washer. It's there so that the dog doesn't jump out. I'm going to put that back in. I'm going to put the main gear on. I'm going to do the same thing with the main gear that I just did with the pinion gear, and that is to make sure it's got a nice coating of grease so that it stays nice and quiet. I recommend that you check the orientation of the teeth. There wasn't any indication during the testing that the teeth had any problems with the mesh at all. But you should, as a general practice, check the teeth. Make sure they're not bent or cracked or missing. Okay, then with the first one through is the keyed washer. It's the rectangular kind of a circle one. And we'll do the same thing. We're going to take that washer with the Cal's drag grease. Now, I've been asked, do I really need drag grease? Can I use fishing wheel grease? You can use fishing wheel grease. I'm not sure there's that much difference, but you know what? I've worked with these products for quite some time now. I'm happy with the performance of them. I'm happy with the performance of the drag washer grease, so I use it. And if you want to, if you service a lot of reels, it's worth getting. If you just got one, try and use your reel grease. It won't, and vice versa. You can use the drag grease on the reels if you need to. So this is the same size as the Penn Jigmaster. If you wanted to upgrade these washers to an HT100 drag or even a Carbon Tex, you could. So as a point of reference. And now we have the third one, which is the rounded one again. Then we have the bell washer. The bell washers, it's not a flat washer, it's concave, one side up, one side indented. The upside comes out. And that's your bridge assembly for your Newell reel. Beautiful materials, they'll last a lifetime. All right, it's pretty simple to reinstall this one. There's no tricks here. You don't have to do anything but line up the bridge with the side plate features. Just like that. Again, not very hard. Listen for that snap. That's always a good sign. And then just tighten down the screws. So, among other things, one of the things that they designed in this was easy service. We can see that it just didn't take a whole lot of effort here to put this reel back together again after we took it off. Just making sure that you tighten down your screws. bridge screw here. It's got a little bit of maybe some salt on it or something, so we'll make sure that we get that one back in. Just checking this one didn't seat. So I love a good mystery like anybody else. I had to stop the video there because the screw wasn't coming through. What I found was the missing screw for the side plate trim ring. Isn't that interesting, right? Somebody lost a bridge screw, tried to put this one in. This one was too short, but I was able to find the replacement screw for that, and there you go. All right. So I was looking for one screw. I thought I was going to be looking for one screw and wound up looking for another one. And I was a little bit surprised the first time because the first two screws that came out were long screws, and I saw the short one saying, what in the world is that? But then we have that threaded collar that holds the top in, which is where that little one belongs. All right, so these have been puzzles of late. All right, a little bit of grease onto the spool shaft. Let's go ahead and put the trim ring back onto the wheel. Install that up there. Like that. We got the two long ones go below into those crossbars. A lot of folks have seen, that's another reason probably why the association with the Jigmaster. A lot of people have seen these crossbars used on the Jigmaster. So I guess one assumption leads to another, but it's an incorrect assumption. All right, I think we're gonna have a beautiful reel ready to go back to Greg, and believe it or not, it'll actually have the correct screw in the top there rather than no screw. I'm just believing that that's what happened here. I don't know why it wound up that somebody wanted to put that one in the bridge, but they did. Give that a spin. Now, this is the beauty of a Newell. It's just a nice casting reel and a nice reel all around. Okay, so we're going to go back and put this in the way it came. We had a collar. We had the little shim washer. Oops. Star adjuster. Be careful with these. They can cross thread very easily if you don't have them on properly. Just take your time. Trial and error. Eventually, you get it. If you if this happens to you, just hold this shaft, spin it down. So apparently that second bell washer there was used as a friction washer between the star drag and the handle so that the handle doesn't back up into it. That's okay. All right, now we got our handle on. Then there's a handle washer. And we have the cup. And at this point you can put that E-clip back on. It's probably easier to do it now than later. Sometimes you can do it with hand strength and sometimes you can't. In that case, we were able to do that with the hand strength. Now we have the cup, plastic washer, we have the cap. And we're kind of back to where we started then. We take our I use a ratchet because of the lip. You could use a wrench. You want to make sure that this one gets seated properly as well. And that's it. That's your Newell. It's the 229.5. It's a nice version of this. This is a little tight. It's got ball bearings. If you wanted to adjust it, you could simply back out that bearing just a little bit, and that's going to give you greater flexibility. You have 2 bearings. You can back it out on both sides or play around with it. That also helps to center in and out the spool. If you, for example, if you were trapping line for some reason under the reel, that would help you do that. So this is it. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more, please go ahead and subscribe. That's the best way to ensure that you don't miss any of these. And if you have a reel that needs to be serviced and you'd like me to work on it, well, please drop me a line. An email is best on the business card that follows for that address, and I'll be happy to help you. So again, thank you. If I omitted anybody on the first responders and essential personnel, I apologize. Your efforts truly are appreciated during the pandemic, and I want to personally thank you for that. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.